Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. My name is Mark Carruthers and I'll quickly explain why I'm hosting that. It is because Andrew Musgrove has just become a dad. So he's having some paternity leave away with his family. Everyone's doing well, and everyone at Reach, the Chronicle Live, and myself, of course, wishes him congratulations, and great to see everyone doing well after the new arrival. It is that time of the week again when we get a view from the opposition. I am joined by Tottenham Hotspur fan and GiveMeSport editor Lee Wilmot. Welcome along, Lee.
Thanks for having me. Andrew did warn me when I was last on the show that he might be on paternity leave when this next fixture came around, and lo and behold, he is. So it's me and you this time.
Yeah, good. Some great news over the weekend, which has been pretty rare on Tyneside at the moment. More of that in a moment. Looking at a Tuesday night's game with Spurs at the moment, can you just give us a bit of an insight into where you think, and I'm going to go straight into it, in terms of Thomas Frank? There's been a lot of talk about his future. Where do you think he stands right now? Is it must-win Tuesday night for him?
And you're the one talking about there not being much good news at around Tyneside at the minute, and here we are talking about Tottenham. My least favourite thing to talk about at the minute, probably. Thomas Frank. Where do I start with Thomas Frank? Do you know what? There's been a lot of fixtures in the last month or so that have felt like must win, and I look back to Bournemouth. I look back to Burnley. I look back to West Ham. Didn't win any of those, but then kind of they were followed up with good performances in the Champions League, which I think, to be honest, kept him in a job. I think there probably was a groundswell of feeling amongst the fan base, and there was internal talks behind the scenes from the board of directors as well about his future. The nature of games coming so thick and fast, I think, stopped them from making a decision, because it was like, we've got a game in 2 days. So who's going to do that? What's going to happen to that game? And we're here again because we've only just played on Saturday and now we've got another game on Tuesday. I can say that it does feel like must win, but there's been so many of those instances already. So I really don't know. I think it's got to the point now where I feel like they'll probably just give him the season. And see what happens. And then you're looking at the fact that there's Mauricio Pochettino's been in the news today because of his appearance on the High Performance podcast, and always talks glowingly about Tottenham whenever he appears whenever he's interviewed anywhere. Yeah. His contract is up with the USA after the World Cup. Thomas Tuchel's contract with England is up after the World Cup. You've got managers in the Premier League, Oliver Glasner, contract up at the end of the season. I think Andoni Iraola's contract is up at the end of the season. There's so many people out there that are available for free at the end of the season. And we've just given Thomas Frank the January transfer window. He didn't get a lot in. You can't say that he was backed in the transfer window, I don't think. So it's not really his squad that someone else would have to take over. But at the same time, once you've got to that point, I do kind of feel like just let him ride out the end of the season and see what happens then.
There's obviously been a bit of talk about Eddie Howe's future at the moment as well up here on Tyneside. And I think maybe people external to the region would think that it's like 90% of Newcastle fans are against Eddie Howe now because of the way it's maybe being reported in certain areas. But I think it's very different to that. In terms of Spurs fans and how they look at Thomas Frank, where do you think that's at right now? Is it the majority want to move on, or?
It's hard to say. Yeah, I think a couple of weeks ago, yes, I think the majority did want him moved on. I think he might have not won a few people over, but as I say, the Champions League performances were reasonably good. Let's be honest, Frankfurt are a shocking side, right towards the bottom of the Bundesliga. In the first 5-10 minutes, the fact that they didn't want to press Tottenham high at all, I thought, well, we shouldn't have a problem here. We have a lot of problems when people attack us and put us under pressure. We got a little bit lucky with the kind of Dortmund red card, although, to be honest, we were excellent for the first 20 minutes of that game against the 11 men. So then we had a man sent off absolutely ridiculously on Saturday against Man United. It feels like that wasn't his fault. He's up playing with 10 men against Man United, who are resurgent Man United. I thought he kind of dealt with the kind of match situation well. It looked like he was going to give it a go in the last 10-15 minutes, stayed in the game until then the sucker punch of that Bruno Fernandes goal. The comeback against Man City was good in the second half. The first half was shambolic. The second half was good. So there's little kind of moments that he's kind of clinging on to. And I think some of the fans are thinking, oh, there's little things here that are good and little things that we can see what he's trying to do and see where he's trying to go. I'm not convinced it's enough, but I think there's probably certain fans out there who are giving him the benefit of the doubt at the minute.
You've used the exact phrase I was going to use there, benefit of the doubt, because what I was going to ask about is obviously the injury list has been lengthy to be an understatement for the vast majority of the season. Has he been given any leeway because of that?
Maybe a little bit. Ange Postecoglou had the same last season. It feels like every year Spurs have a myriad injuries to deal with. Questions maybe that need to be asked behind the scenes with the medical department. I know our good friend Christian Romero was quite openly kind of last season, I think it was, when he'd had his injury problems. He came out on social media, as he loves to do, and thanked publicly the Argentina national medical staff. Didn't do so when it came to Tottenham. So, yeah, there is that kind of that feeling that there are mitigating circumstances for Frank. Ange Postecoglou had those, won a trophy and was sacked anyway. So who knows what's going to happen.
I have to ask about Romero as well. And again, I realise he's probably... I know, sorry. But I feel as if every time I see him play, that there's just something... I know the build-up to Saturday's game he was in the press quite a bit and quite critical of a number of things at the club. But as captain, it seems a very strange move to take. Where do you think he's at right now?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the fan base love him for talking out against the club. Let's be honest, I'm not Thomas Frank's biggest fan, but the blame does not lie solely at his door. There's issues throughout the club, and things that need to change. Whether they will or not, I don't know, but things need to change at higher level than Thomas Frank. So the fact that he comes out and kind of shows that he has that same feeling and that same desire that the fans have. The fans love that and want to get behind him because of that. When you go out on the pitch and are reckless like that, and it's not the first time, let's be honest, with Christian Romero, it's an unnecessary attack. Yes, he wins the ball, but it's an unnecessary follow through. He doesn't need to do that. He has done it before. When he's spoken openly about taking responsibility because no one else will, that is not taking responsibility. That's leaving your teammates in the lurch, and kind of, just you let everyone down basically by doing that. I don't know why he's captain. He was always seen as one of the kind of quiet ones. Like when we had Giovanni Lo Celso at the club, he was one of the ones that, there's the two Argentines, he was the more outspoken one of the two when they were first at the club. So I'm not convinced he should be the leader and the captain of this football club. But he's here to stay by the sounds of what Thomas Frank is saying. I say here to stay at least until the end of the season. Who knows what's going to happen? Then there's been so many question marks over his future. He's spoken openly about wanting to play in the Liga before. Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid have both been linked with him before. I think if a reasonable offer were to come in, I would probably say thanks very much and move on from him. But I know there's lots of fans out there who do not want to see him go.
We will talk about Tuesday night's game in a second.
Yes, we haven't got there yet. Sorry.
We haven't, no. But firstly, big thanks to our sponsors, NordVPN. Hit the link in the podcast description box to get a discounted offer on your NordVPN plan. One subscription can be used across 10 devices, and there's no risk with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So on to Tuesday night. Now, I've just done a podcast previewing tomorrow night with one of our local journalists up here, John Gibson, a veteran of covering Newcastle for over 6 decades now. Now, Newcastle, I did mention this to him, Newcastle 2 wins from 12 away from home. Spurs 2 wins from 12 at home. In terms of home and away, I'm going to use the phrase, and I'll use it exactly what I did in the last podcast. It's like the red line against the dog and duck, isn't it, when it comes to home and away form. But jokes aside, I mean, Spurs, when you look at the Champions League home record compared to the Premier League home record, what do you put that down to?
What a question that is. I've no idea, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I really don't know, and I don't think Thomas Frank knows either. We're in for a thriller on Tuesday night, aren't we? I think we're with those stats coming at us. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow night. When I looked at it a couple of weeks ago in the kind of Man City, Man United, Newcastle, Arsenal, I thought we could be in real trouble here towards the bottom of the table, and West Ham winning at the weekend makes it 6 points now between us and them in the bottom three. You've from a Spurs point of view, you've got to look at tomorrow night as a must. We need 3 points because the way Arsenal are going, and the way they steamrolled us at the Emirates earlier in the season, I don't think we've changed that much, and we've got so many more injuries than we had then as well. I fear for the North London derby again, in a week's time. So yeah, we have to. Spurs have to win. Spurs have to go out there and play and show some of that fight and that kind of attacking intent that we have shown in the Champions League. That's perhaps been a little bit lacking in the Premier League. I think there was a fair amount of attacking intent against Man City. Didn't have any opportunities to do it against Man United when you got 10 men. But as I've said, there are kind of little moments that are showing that Thomas Frank has got a bit of desire to go out and attack teams. And if there was ever a time to go and do it, it's against and as you say, a Newcastle team that are probably a little bit down on their luck, like Spurs are. Go out there and show what you can do, really. To be honest, the way you look at it, it almost brings Newcastle down into that chatter a little bit as well, doesn't it, if we win?
Yeah, let's not go there. But no, you are right. I mean, Newcastle, I think, will do enough, but they will look over their shoulders if, as you say, Spurs claw them in a bit further. But what I find really strange, and both sides kind of had similar seasons overall last year, where they ended long waits for major silverware. Admittedly, Newcastle's was quite a lot longer than Spurs. But the momentum of those cup wins seems to have just gone, which I find really strange, because I think both clubs went into the season kind of feeling reinvigorated and refreshed by these amazing cup wins and memorable cup wins. But that's just gone now.
Yeah, I must say I'm surprised a little bit by Newcastle, because I'm a big Eddie Howe fan. I like what he's done at the club, and I liked what he did at Bournemouth as well. And kind of it feels like he's kind of done things sensibly, and the club have done things sensibly despite the influx of money that was there. They kind of gone about things the right way, and as you say, ended the trophy drought. And yeah, I'm a bit surprised by. I don't watch enough of Newcastle to know what's going on behind the scenes or what the issue is on the pitch with Newcastle this year, but. Yeah, there's not as much fear for me going. I hate playing Newcastle normally. Any appearance I've made on this podcast with Andrew before, always talking about how I'm not looking forward to a Newcastle game. And tomorrow's no different. I'm not really looking forward to it, but that's by and by. But yeah, when we changed the manager, so that kind of that momentum of winning a trophy was immediately sucked out of you, and you're kind of starting again from scratch. And you're bringing in a more pragmatic manager, complete opposite to Ange Postecoglou football, who focused on the defence first and then the attack second. I'm still waiting for that attack second part of Thomas Frank to come. But we've lost a bit of that defensive stability as well in recent weeks and months. So yeah, it's always fun being a Tottenham fan and watching them every week.
Do you know, I think the whole podcast could have been summed up by that sigh for both.
Yeah.
Just right, okay. In terms of, and again, I realise there's lots of injuries, but who do you think Newcastle should be wary of on Tuesday night?
Dom Solanke has come back into form since he's back from his injury. Scored a few goals in the Champions League, and then those 2 goals against Man City. Whether the first one should actually have gone down as his is debatable, but the second one certainly was his. Couldn't do a lot on Saturday. Starved of service with only 9 players behind him. And was actually given a little bit of a rest in the end. I think came off 15, 20 minutes before the end. So should be fresh-ish for tomorrow night. So yeah, I would say him. Conor Gallagher's started his Spurs career reasonably well. Looks to get us on the front foot when he can. Is combative. We'll try and battle against Bruno and Joe Linton if they're the two, or Tonali, whoever is in that midfield for Newcastle. Not many other players. Not many other players.
This sounds like false hope growing here. Yeah, I'm not really sure Joe Linton will make it on Tuesday night. I think the talk is that he may be fit over the next week or so, which is a big miss. Joe Willock has done pretty well. I thought he was one of Newcastle's better players, which isn't saying much. On Saturday night against Brentford, he got hooked at half time after a decent first half. He was one of few that could, lay stake to that claim. So I think it's probably going to be in midfield. It'll be Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, and then one of Jacob Ramsey or Joe Willock. Although there is also the kind of wild card possibility of Nick Voltemada playing as a kind of number 10 as he's meant to play with Johan Wissa up front. So yeah, it's really, there's a lot of big decisions for Eddie Howe to make. And you mentioned earlier it feels must win for Spurs. I don't think it's quite must win yet for Newcastle or Eddie Howe, but it does feel as if things are approaching that stage. I mean, does it surprise you that he's under pressure?
No, nothing surprises me in the Premier League, really, when it comes to this. I think what he's done for Newcastle has been very good. I don't know what the fan base think and expect. Is there an expectation for more now you've won that trophy that you should be kicking on and doing even better than this? But it's not been a great season for Newcastle. So yeah, I'm not surprised he's under pressure. Everything I've heard though is that there's not that amount of pressure behind the scenes at Newcastle. So I don't think there is any imminent danger of a change there, is there?
No, I don't think there is. I think that all the kind of messages seem to be coming out that he is, he's safe in his job. Maybe that might be reviewed at the end of the season, depending on what happens between now and May. I mean, look, they've got a really tough FA Cup game at Villa on Saturday. If they can get through that and get towards the latter stage of the FA Cup, Eddie Howe can say, well, look, I've got to the Carabao Cup semi-finals. I've got to the, latter stage of the FA Cup. I've got the first ever Newcastle manager to reach the knockout rounds of the Champions League, even though it is a playoff round tie against Carabao. But so there are aspects of the season that have been positive, but then they are sat in the bottom half of the table and having this, horrible away record and a poor run of form going into what I would say is a difficult game at Spurs and then another difficult game on Saturday. So it feels like a big week for Newcastle. Then again, it feels like a big week for both clubs, doesn't it, really?
It certainly is, yeah. We've got a break at the weekend, obviously, because we were beaten by Villa in the third round. So it could have been two games in quick succession between Spurs and Newcastle, really. But it's a big week, and like we spoke about Thomas Frank being under pressure before, and the fact that it's been game after game after game that the decision's not been made. If we were to lose tomorrow night and we've got a weekend off, never know that kind of break could tell the story for Thomas Frank.
That's brilliant. That is all we need. I think we've depressed ourselves enough. Into I'm not going to call it make or break, but I may call it must win. I think it does feel must win for both sides and both managers. But Lee, thanks for joining us on the Everything is Black and White podcast. Let's hope there's some more positive moments to discuss in the future. I'll be back on Wednesday morning with Lee Ryder with the curiously named Monday show, even though it's on Wednesday morning. But we'll be looking back at events at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as Newcastle United look to return to winning ways. And then after that, it'll be all eyes on Villa for that FA Cup tie. We'll see you then.